Hey guys, this is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars in Sonora, California. And it's been a little bit since I posted a video. I have working on a new one right now. I got something interesting in store. I got a complete overhaul. I've been working on some other woodworking projects that have taken me away from working on guitars. Unfortunately, as some of you know, my mother passed away. I felt like I wanted to build something that I could give to family members. And so what I made was clocks using exotic hardwood and some other wood that I had, including ash that I made my Telecaster out of so many years ago. I had a bunch of that left over. Joe and Justin, the guys over at Carve Concepts here in Sonora, helped me out huge. They have a whole CNC get up. They carved all the clock faces and they stayed up late on a Sunday night. It was just amazing. You know, they really blessed me so much to be able to do all that, and they had all these tricks to be able to do the work. And so I got those projects done and I was able to give those out to my family. I've got one hanging up on my wall. And it's really a special thing that I was able to do. And then when I said to them, hey, so what do I owe you? They just wouldn't take any compensation. And I was like, that's not acceptable. Like, I gotta be able to do something. Let me set up your guitars, let me do something. And they were about to say no and turn me away cold when Justin's wife spoke up and said, well, Caitlin's guitar needs some work. You know, I said, perfect. So she ran and grabbed this guitar right here. To say this guitar needs some work, yeah, is a bit of an understatement, you know. And I'll do some close-up shots here, but it's an Alvarez acoustic guitar. You know, this is definitely a student-grade instrument. Yeah, it's in really bad shape. You know, the nut is plastic, and it's definitely not the original nut that came with this instrument. Someone at some point just found something that would fit. The fretboard is extremely dirty and worn. Some of the frets are lifting and have sharp corners. Some of the binding has pulled away from the edge here. The tuners are the horrible cheap tuners that they put on these kind of import guitars. And then there's just a lot of problems going on here in the bridge. The saddle's completely destroyed from whatever reason. I don't know how it happened. You know, it's definitely plastic. Just through the course of the years, it's just all broken away. And then there's a huge crack right along, following the grain between the bridge pins. Having said all that, you know, I'm going to do my best to really show this guitar some love and give them back a great playing guitar. You know, I got some tuners and I, you know, got everything to make a new nut and saddle. I'm going to expand my skills a little bit and see what I can do about the crack in the bridge. We're going to do a setup, get this thing playing really good. Yeah, I just wanted to take you guys on this journey and show you what is going on regarding this guitar. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the strings, and these strings, you know, they're actually not that bad. They've obviously put new strings on there fairly recently, but we're going to take the strings off. Alright, so I've got all the strings off now. One problem that I've come up against is that this guitar only came with 5 bridge pins, so that is an issue that we are going to have to address somehow. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So this is, oh yeah, this is horrible. Yeah, this is the bridge, and then it's got the Gibson style where you tighten the screws to raise up the saddle. I'm gonna pull this out and see what happened. Yeah, I think it's being wedged against by this crack. I don't think it can move very freely, because that should be able to come out. Okay, well, here's a fun thing. One of the things I like to do is to see about specific tools of the trade. This is kind of a weird one. Here's it's basically a dental pick, and I just kind of use that to kind of pull that up, and it came out. That worked. I got that saddle out. So now to make fitting the new saddle really easy, I can take this over to the belt sander with my saddle blank and get it to fit in there really easily. Okay, so I brought you over here to the other side. So now that we've got the bridge, we're doing some inspection things. The first thing I want to do, make the neck flat, and the neck is not flat. It's very backbowed. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm gonna use a Allen wrench, and my guess is that this is metric. So I'm gonna grab my metric Allen wrenches, try to find the right size. That feels like it. This has an up bow, so I'm gonna try to loosen the truss rod. Yeah, it's very stiff. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's much better. Like, it has a little bit of fall away here at the end. You kind of want that on an acoustic guitar. So that's nice and flat. So I'll bring the camera over to show you what I'm looking at. Okay, you can see here now that the neck is flat, but if I move the camera over here, you can see there's a little bit of gap at the very high frets, and that's actually pretty normal, and we wouldn't want to adjust for that. If I pushed it down here, you can see the front side is way up in the sky. Pretty normal to have some fall away on an instrument, acoustic guitars particularly. But yeah, so I have the neck flat now for level. So now that I've got the neck flat, what I would do is check the fret for high spots. I would use my little fret rocker here. You just go along, you go span 3 frets, and you rock it back and forth, and mark a high spot. Just mark it with permanent marker everywhere where it high centers like that. So on this fret here, the 2nd fret, basically the ends were okay, but the middle from over here to over here was all high. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down the fretboard, see where that is, and then depending on how much work needs to be done, how many spots that is, I'll determine if I need to do a spot level on those frets, if I can just hit those high ones, or if I should just do a full level and recrown. Okay, well, based on the quantity of high spots and how high they were and where they are, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a full fret level. These ones here are really high. These ones aren't so bad, but there's kind of a lot of them in this area, and I think it's going to be beneficial to do a full fret level and crown. It seems like there's plenty of height left on these frets. So yeah, I am going to do that, and I'm going to take the nut off. The way that I do that, just use a little piece of wood, because it's glued on. Sometimes they just pop out. Just take a little piece of wood, hardwood, just tap it from the back with a little hammer. That's it. That's all it takes. That pops out. Yeah, and that's plastic. Yeah. Ripped up a couple fibers, but we'll clean that up. And I do that because, number one, I know I'm going to replace the nut. And the second thing is, if I'm going to do a fret level, then when I use my leveling beam, which is just a level, it has a flat side, if I move that nut out of the way, it makes it easier for me to get a full length sanding stroke without bumping into that. If I have to try to stop short and not hit that nut, it's always a problem. So yeah, I just get that out of the way. If I know I'm not saving the nut, I'll pop that out of there. I'm gonna start with the leveling. The way that I do that is I do adhesive sandpaper on the back of this level, and I just go back and forth. You know, the neck's already flat, as flat as I can get it, so it should be a pretty straightforward level. Alright, so I've got my level with adhesive back sanding paper. You know, I like to buy it in these big rolls. What I did is I went ahead and marked all the frets with the permanent pen, all the way till about here, where the fall away starts. I just did a couple strokes with the level, and I don't know if you can see, but you can see there's, just with a couple back and forth strokes, it took off some here, 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 a lot right here, spots here and here, a little bit here and here, and then a lot right here. Those are the really high points. That's all there is to it for a fret level. Make sure your neck is supported, You don't need a lot of downward pressure. What I'm trying to do is frets that I'm worried about from here to here, I'm going to sand until all the black is gone all the way across the frets. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. When you're doing this, you know, you have to remember that fretboards aren't flat. They're radius. This is flat, but I'm letting the level follow the radius. I'm not just holding it flat and going back and forth. I'm allowing it to, the curve to follow the radius as I sand back and forth. So anyway, I thought you guys might like to see that if you've never seen a fret level before. All right, so I've got my frets all leveled up here, and that's all ready to go. And I decided to start to work on this crack. This channel here, because the wood had split and started to pull forward, which is why it was so hard to get that bridge out. So I actually took my chisel and ran it along here to open that up a little bit so that the bridge saddle could go up and down more easily. So now what I'm doing, I'm filling this crack with some dust, and then I'm just gonna level it off and then drop a little drop of CA glue down in there to strengthen it and solidify it. And I have some parchment paper down in the hole, some parchment paper up here to protect the guitar. Got a little X-Acto knife here, just grabbing some sawdust, and I did a little color sample, and this sawdust is actually going to be a perfect match, even though it doesn't look like it. When the CA glue hits it, it's going to be a perfect match for the finish here. Put a little dollop on top, use the blade, and slice it down into the crack. I want the sawdust to go down as deep as possible and fill a gap. Okay, I'm going to try to bring you guys in here as close as I can. I got some CA glue here with a precision applicator tip. Got the excess dust wiped away. Dropping some liquid. This is the really thin CA glue, and it just runs and fills all the little cracks. Make sure to get down in the sides where those cracks have propagated. Okay, so I'm going to let that glue dry, and then we'll see if we need to do round two. I wanted to show you something that I came across while working on this instrument. You know, the fingerboard was very dark. Thought it was grime or dirt or muck. So I started to try to clean it, and it wasn't cleaning up. So then I grabbed some straight razors and started scraping it away. So that's what I've got here. You can see I went all the way to the first fret there. And this stuff is stubborn. Whatever it is, you know, what I think probably happened is they wanted the fingerboard to look like it was rosewood or something, and so they stained it with like wood stain, and it's in there really good. And you know, I don't even know why you do that, because this wood that's there it's attractive wood. But basically grabbing a straight razor back and forth, and so that's, here, I got that one fret done. I've had to do that to every single fret, and now that I've scraped it, it's a little rough, like it needs some sanding. So normally I would use, you know, to polish the frets, I might use a string protector like this with sandpaper, but instead I think I'm going to use micro mesh and a foam pad, where I just wrap the micro mesh over the pad and go up and down the frets, and then let it sand the wood at the same time while I do it that way. Okay, well, I've done all the work that I can do on this guitar. I think it turned out really nice. I had a couple problems. The neck is just about due for a reset. As such, even with the bridge lowered all the way, as low as I could get it, I still have pretty high string action, especially on the treble side. I took my Dremel and relieved the slots that the strings come out of the bridge pin holes to help give the string a little bit better break angle, because it was not sounding super clear, and so I had to do that. But I got a new nut on there, bone nut. On this one, it was kind of a fun experiment, which is the saddle here. One of the things that I did for the first time on this job was cut my own saddle from an entire bone. You know, I actually bought a cow bone, cut the pieces up using my friend's bandsaw, because mine broke, and milled it all the way down to be a proper bone saddle. Nut blanks I already had in stock, so I just cut that like normal. But hey, I wanted to play this guitar for you. It actually plays pretty good, despite the high action. It sounds really good, actually, I think, you know, compared to some other guitars, like this one I'm still working on. You know, it's got a really nice tone to it. The neck's kind of thick, which I like. So let me give you some tone samples. pretty nice. You know, it sounds good, kind of a nice big full sound to it. One of the things I did on this guitar is I replaced the tuners. I think I mentioned that earlier. I got some good Godos, which is going to be a huge improvement. So anyway, I just thought you might want to see this guitar and see its progress. So yeah, you know, I'm really happy with how this guitar turned out. You know, it did a lot of work to it, put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making this work, and it turned out pretty nice. So I hope that this will go to good use. But anyway, hey, if you need any repairs done to your guitars, new setups or repairs or a new nut or fret level or refret even, if you need that kind of work done, you know, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. You can hit me up. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.